number 6. So there's two places you can start. We can either deal with the -4 first, or we can work inside here and simplify first. It won't matter a bit. So if I start on the inside, if I'm reducing my numbers, this is just a 1 and a 2, I can't reduce that, so it just stays 2. With my x's, what's bigger, 2 or -3? 2, so it's going to end on top. When you're dividing, you subtract exponents, so it's 2 minus -3. So give me x to the 5th. I only have a y on top, so it stays. My z's, I have a 1 and a 4. 4 is bigger, it's on the bottom, so it ends on the bottom. 4 minus 1 is 3. This is all to the -4 power. What does a negative exponent do? Flips it. So the 2z cubed comes up, the x5th y comes down, and now it's to a positive 4. Then we take the 4th power to everything. So 2 to the 4th becomes what? It means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, so that's 16. With the exponents, power to a power, you multiply, so z to the 12 over x, 5 times 4 is 20, y to the 4. And so that would be our final answer. Is that one okay? Problem 7. Okay, so I had a lot of people trying to cross multiply here. You only cross multiply if there's an equal sign in between. So if there's not, what it means is you multiply the tops, you multiply the bottoms. But our final answer has to be reduced. So what we need to do is factor first as much as possible. X squared minus 9, factor is difference of squares, x plus 3, x minus 3. X squared minus x, what could you do to factor that? Take an x out, and that leaves us with x minus 1. Okay, x minus 1, I cannot factor. X squared minus 3x, we can take out an x, left with x minus 3. So then anything on top and bottom can reduce. So the x minus 1's cancel, the x minus 3's cancel, and you multiply what's left. So on top, all we have is x minus 3, or sorry, x plus 3. On the bottom, we have x times x, which is x squared. That one's okay? Problem 8 is similar. When you multiply and divide, our strategy is the same. However, first, you have to change your division problem to a multiplication problem. How do we divide? Multiply by the reciprocal. So we change it to times, flip the second fraction. Now it's just like problem 7. So we want our answer to be as simplified as possible, so we factor. X squared minus x minus 6 would factor into x plus 2. X squared minus 1 factors into 3x plus 3, what would we do? X squared minus 2x minus 8 give us x minus 4x plus 2. Okay, anything on top and bottom reduces, so we can drop the x plus 1 and the x plus 2. So on the top, I still have a 3 times an x minus 3. On the bottom, we have an x minus 1 times an x minus 4. You can certainly multiply that out, that's fine. So if you wrote 3x minus 9 over x squared minus 5x plus 4, that is perfectly okay. I just didn't usually make you do that on those. We usually left it in factored form. But if matter, both answers are correct. Is that one okay? You guys didn't ask about 9 and 10. Those are usually harder for people. If you want to add or subtract, what do you have to have? Common denominator. Did you guys get those to work out, or do we need to work one? Work one? Okay. Let's do problem 9. We need the bottoms of the fractions to match. This has x minus 4, so look like the other one, it needs x plus 4. So we have to multiply the x plus 4 on both top and bottom. This one has x plus 4, it needs x minus 4. So we multiply that top and bottom. On the top, you do have to go ahead and distribute, so that gives us 3x squared plus 12x. On the bottom, it's just going to stay x minus 4x plus 4. You could multiply it out if you wanted to, you don't have to. This one, if we distribute our x, we get x squared minus 4x. Bottom stays. Because there's a subtraction, what do we have to do? Change it to a plus and distribute. So 3x squared plus x squared is 2x squared. 12x plus 4x is 16x. Or x minus 4x plus 4. So number 10 would be the same way. Factoring. What do we look for first when factoring? GCF. Is there a GCF here? No. So then our strategy is based off the number of terms. We know if it's only 2 terms, we're looking for a difference of squares. 3 terms, we're trying slip and slide. What's the strategy for 4 terms? Grouping. We want to put the first 2 together and the last 2 together. You cannot add a parenthesis after a subtraction. So before I add parentheses, I'm going to make that a -4. So then I can group these 2 together and these 2 together. The first 2, what can I take out of that parenthesis? And that would leave us with x minus 8. The second one, I'm trying to make the parentheses match. So what would I need to take out? Take out -4, then that's x minus 8. So now we look, we have 2 separate terms. What do both terms have? So if we take out x minus 8, that leaves us with x squared minus 4. And you can go one more step because x squared minus 4 is a difference of squares. So that would break into x plus 2. X minus 2. Is that one okay? What do we do on this one to begin? Distribute. It's just a linear equation. The thing that makes it hard is the fractions, but we have calculators, we can deal with that. 2 sevenths times 4 is 8 sevenths minus x. Is -4 minus 3/5 x. Combine like terms. 2 sevenths x and -1x. So 2/7 minus 1 is -5/7 x. That's 8 sevenths. Equals -4 minus 3/5 x. Then what? the fractions bother you, you can use a calculator here. This gives me negative 4 over 35x. This one gives me a negative 20 over 7. Final step to get x by itself. You can either divide by negative 4/35 or multiply by the reciprocal. Either one will get you there. The biggest issue when people do the divided by a fraction on your calculators, you need to do parentheses. So you have to do parentheses around the first fraction, parentheses around the second fraction, in order for your answer to come out correctly. And so then if you do that, you should get 20. Is that one okay? Problem 16. If I'm trying to get b by itself, what could I do? Okay, my directions are to solve for b, so I have to subtract the 2a and the c. So we have negative 3b equals 8 minus 2a minus c. Then how would you get b by itself? And on my answer key, I had two different ways you could write your answer. You could have this. If you went ahead and divided by the negative, it would give you a positive 2a, a positive c, and a negative 8. So either one of those answers is fine. The only difference is on this second one, I divided my negative out. Okay, are those all right? Problem 17. Bob invests $22,000 at 7% and some at 6% interest. After 6 months, he receives a return of $710. How much is invested at each rate? So our strategy, we have one amount of money that we broke into two different groups. So anytime we had a lot of information, we made a table. We're talking about interest, so our interest formula, rate, P times R times T equals I. So that's our equation we're going to solve. Okay, my different things, we're putting some of it at 7%, some of it at 6%, and then we have our total. Where would we put the $22,000? The $22,000 was how much money he started with, and he took that and broke it into two different groups. So the starting amount is the principal. That was the total that we split up. So my total principal is the $22,000. Okay. The other thing in the problem, 6 months. Time always has to be in years. So 6 months is how much of a year?
0.5.
Yeah, after 6 months, he receives a rate of return of $710. That's the return he got back. What does that amount represent? Interest. It's a total interest. Okay, 7% would be a rate of 0.07. 6% a rate of 0.06. It didn't give you the rate for the total, but it doesn't matter. My goal is just to get this column. So if I have gaps, otherwise it's okay. Do we know how much he invested at 7%? No, so we call that X. Then what would we do for 6%? The total minus the amount we already spent. Okay. It's like not a huge leak. There is a little puddle on the floor, but it's somewhere. I've got drops from here to here.
When's your classroom empty?
First hour.
Time lunch
We have first lunch, so at 11.
at 11.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So then, how do we finish this column? Multiply x times 0.07 times 0.5. That gives me 0.035x. Okay, this we're multiplying. 0.06 times 0.5 would be 0.03. I still have to take that times the 22,000 minus x. All right, and then how do we use that to write an equation? Right, but what would my equation be?
0.035x plus 0.03 times 22,000 minus x equals 710.
Right, remember if we get that final column, you're always just adding the first and second to equal our total. And 3 times 22,000 will give me 660 minus 0.03x. Combine like terms, 0.035 minus 0.03 is 0.005x. Subtract over the 660. And divide. We get 10,000. So does that mean we had 10,000 at each rate? No. X is the amount at 7%. So he invests $10,000 at 7%. The 6% is 22,000 minus X, so 22,000 minus 10,000 would be 12,000 at 6%. All right. Any questions there? Okay. So we decided we're talking about a little bit each day. So for Monday, let's do, how about 18 through 32? Just take us to the end of the next page. And then Tuesday, we'll hit the last few questions and then a little review over everything. Okay? So you have the rest of the hour to work on that next chunk of problems. Ask questions, feel free to help.